Hi, I'm Hazel. Welcome back to Reflect. This is my channel. This is where we talk about books and reading and life and art and philosophy and a bunch of other things because I still haven't figured out exactly what this channel is, but you learn as you go, you grow as you go. Okay, today is really exciting because we are going to be talking about this list. I'm going to give you this list of tools and exercises that you can do. The point of this list is to deepen your relationship with yourself. This will not only improve your self-relationship, your self-knowledge, your emotion regulation, your relationships. But the main point of this list is for you to know yourself, because we say that we will do these things like habits and goals and routines, and then we don't do them, and that's because we haven't gone within ourselves and we haven't really found meaning in these things and these lists and accomplishments that we say that we're going to do, and these goals that we say we're going to reach, because we don't really know why we're doing them. We don't know why we're following the path that we're following. And so the point of this list is to really, through this, you will face your flaws, your fears, you will ask yourself questions, have conversations with yourself, and it's scary, it's fun, but through this you will develop intuition for what you really want to do, what path you really want to follow, who you are, who you want to be. And so let's get started. So the first thing on the list, this is my laptop, that's what I'm looking at. And so the first thing is, okay, so this list is divided into three parts. There's the input, the output, and neutral, which consists of the input and output. So input is basically the things that you consume, the things that you are reading, listening to, watching, all of it. So just one tool I have for input, which is when it comes to books, or you can substitute this for newsletters you read, magazines, or like podcasts you listen to and all of that. So my tool is that instead of just sort of passively consuming, which is what we're all doing because we're all on social media and all of that, like let's say you're reading a book, instead of just going through it and like saying like, oh, this is so cool, I want to try this and this will change my whole life, and then you close the book and you forget all about it. So instead of that, what you can do is annotate the book, annotate it anyhow, it doesn't matter how. So the parts of the book that you feel move you in some way, this could be an idea that you get if it's like nonfiction and that book has ideas and tools that you want to implement in your life. So note down those pages or mark them, underline them, draw little hearts, whatever. Mark those pages of the things that you want to do. And when it comes to fiction, again, do the same thing. And then what you're going to do is, once you finish the book, you get a journal, right? And those pages that you've marked, just sit with your thoughts and think about what you think about those pages that you marked. And think those thoughts, journal, just write. Don't think about structure and form and perfectly putting thoughts into words. Just write it anyhow. But basically what you're going to write is how you think that particular tool, if it's nonfiction, is going to change your life, or how it's going to help you, what you can do to implement that tool in your life. And if it's fiction, people think that fiction cannot really teach you as much in terms of personal development or self-growth and all of that, but fiction is, I mean, we learn through stories. Humans have always been into storytelling. So in fiction, what you can do is the learnings that the protagonist is having, you can reflect on them if they apply to your life. Again, this is not, there are no rules here, this is not rigid at all. It's more about any point in the story that moves you to think like, okay, this protagonist made this decision and I would not have made it, I would have done something else. So like, why did that move you in that way? Journal about that. Or if you relate to the story for some reason, if you think that the protagonist reflects you and is making the same mistakes you've made in your life, so reflect about that. Like, okay, what can I do to change that? So this is, again, there are no prompts here, there's no rules about how to do this. It's just you and your pen and your journal. I would suggest handwrite this instead of typing it into a laptop, computer, whatever, because that way you really get your thoughts out. It can even be about what do you think about the themes that the book covers as a whole. So what do you think about loss or love or relationships or friendships or youth or politics or art, all the themes that come up in those books? What do you think about them? And then you can do the same for a podcast episode that you listen to, the ideas that it brought up, journal about those. How's it going to help you in your life? So that's one thing. After you finish journaling, I would say the kind of core ideas from that, like let's say you just realize something through that journal entry, like, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know I believe in this. This is something, this is a core belief of mine. This is like my philosophy of life. I would say move that into your Zettelkasten. So whatever core ideas you have from those entries, you're going to move that into your Zettelkasten. So now Zettelkasten, I'm not going to get very deep into this, but Zettelkasten is basically your note-taking app. And it's not as simple as a basic note-taking app. It's more like your knowledge base, and this is your thinking tool. The purpose of moving your core thoughts from your journal entries to your Zettelkasten is that you are never going to come back and read that journal entry, nor are you going to come back and read that whole book. So the point is that you have invested time and energy in that book, in that journal entry. So whatever you've taken from it, you move it to your thinking tool so that you keep coming back to your thinking tool. Your Zettelkasten is your second brain. It's where you put your ideas, your insights, your life philosophies, your realizations, your core like parts of yourself. And so the idea is that you keep coming back to your Zettelkasten. If you want to know like a breakdown of how to use Zettelkasten, how to use knowledge management systems, how to actively consume media and then implement those ideas into your own life, then watch the video that I will link in the description. I made a video about that earlier. So that's my tool for the input part, which is any sort of media that you consume. So this doesn't apply to, because you can't do this for every single newsletter you read or podcast episode that you listen to, because then you'll be doing this all the time and no one has that much time. But you will start to develop intuition about this, about like what is really moving you and what is important to you. So do this for those books or podcast episodes and newsletters. So that's one thing. So I have a whole list now for output. So let's get on with the list. So in output, there are two types of tools that I'm going to give you. One is mental, one is physical. So for mental, what you're going to do is, first of all, let's talk about active interrogation. So active interrogation is a technique that I came across in this video of this YouTuber called Mr. Clark's Classroom. I think his name is Billy Clark. So he gave this, I'll again link the video in the description, but he gave this tool called active interrogation, which is basically anytime you have a sort of ambiguous or anxious thought, right? So anxious, it could be anxiety related in the sense of like, I can't do this, how will I do this, how am I gonna pay the rent, how am I gonna make a life, how am I gonna finish this course. It could be anything. Whenever you have anxiety related thoughts, or let's say you want to make a big like life decision but you're in two minds about it and you don't know what to do, so then you use this active interrogation tool to question yourself, to have an active dialogue with yourself versus suppressing those thoughts or ignoring those thoughts. You are going to have an active conversation. So this covers specific questions in terms of, okay, why do I feel this way, but also the how, what, when, where. So if it's a work related anxiety that I have, that okay, I don't think I can do this job, I don't think this role is suited to me, I want to do it but I don't know how to do it. So okay, why do I believe that I can't do this, what skills can I develop to do this? So have that conversation with yourself. Who am I going to approach for support, when am I going to approach this person for support? So these kinds of specific questions will help you solve the problem versus getting sucked into it. And another way that this YouTuber suggested doing this technique is also the shadow questioning, the shadow journaling, or the internal. This doesn't have to be like you sit down and journal. This can just be a dialogue you're having with yourself in your head. So the shadow questioning or the internal sort of self-questioning is if you are asking yourself these specific questions of how, what, when, where, and you're still feeling like something is unresolved, so then ask those deeper questions of what is blocking me from reaching out for help, or what thoughts do I need to let go of to move forward, or why do I believe this negative belief about myself. So that's the second tool, which is active interrogation. Now we move on to the third tool. I'm talking so fast because like I'm really late in filming this video and I have to edit it. The third tool is reflection prompts. This is meant to be a journaling technique. Basically, the University of Edinburgh, Edinburgh, I will never know how to pronounce it, but this university came up with this framework. Again, link in description. They came up with a reflection toolkit. So over here they talk about what is the point of reflection, how to do it, why to do it, when to do it, and they give a lot of models and a lot of frameworks within those about how to do reflection. And so you can go through this website or you can jump directly to the models themselves and try them out anytime you have a major decision you have to make in life, or you are anxious about something, you're facing a problem, you don't know how to solve it. Just go to one of these models. And so for instance, to give you like a better sense of what this is, I like to use this one called the 5R framework for reflection. So the 5R framework is basically reporting, responding, relating, reasoning, reconstructing. So for instance, okay, reporting is where you give the context of the situation. So you quickly journal, okay, these are like the facts, this is what happened, I had a fight with my best friend, whatever. And then we have responding. Responding is, okay, what were your thoughts and actions and beliefs? What did you say to that person? How did you respond to the situation? Next is relating. So relating means what are the previous knowledge and skills I have about this similar situation. If it's happened before, what have I done before to resolve this? So you reflect on your previous skills and experiences. And then you have reasoning, which is the fourth R. The fourth step is reasoning. Reasoning is where you try to make sense of this whole thing. Okay, what could have happened? why did I say this? Let me go and think about the situation from my friend's perspective. What must she have meant? And like, you reason out the whole thing. And then finally, we have reconstructing. The last step is how can I, going back on all the 4 hours, the previous steps, how can I be better prepared for this sort of a similar situation in the future? So that this is where you make sense of the whole picture. And so this is like a reflection model that you can use. And they have many other models like this. So this is the tool, and they have a bunch of prompts, and anytime that you're sort of stuck, or you don't even have to wait for something bad to happen, but like if you want to know something about your past better, you want to explore that better, or you want to just, you've noticed something about yourself, like someone, like people keep saying that you get angry very instantly, or you are not able to take a joke, or you, let's say you've noticed certain things about yourself, certain flaws or weaknesses in yourself that you want to reflect on. So just go to this website and pick one of the models, and you can have a whole journaling sesh. And the next thing along with this reflection website, which is very powerful, is this website called visualframeworks.com. So visualframeworks.com, I'm just reading out what's on their website. Visual frameworks are patterns to help you think creatively, reframe challenging situations, and imagine possible strategies and solutions. So this is what it looks like. They have these different frameworks on their website. I don't know how to show you this. I'm doing a full promo for Lenovo right now. See? So flexible. Anyway. But yeah, these are what the frameworks look like basically. So for instance, I'm just pulling up one of them right now. It's called Peeling the Onion. Again, this is what it looks like, just to give you an example. Peeling the onion. So it's fun because you can, journaling can feel very sort of like, it can feel like class or schoolwork, or like I don't want to sit down and have to write. So this is a fun way to do it, like these visual frameworks. So peeling the onion, I saw you what it looked like. You use this image, you pull up this image, right? And you can draw it on your journal. And they give you a little supporting text beneath each visual framework. So I'm reading that out to you now for this particular tool, which is for this particular visual framework, which is called Peeling the Onion. Some situations are layered. You can only delve into one layer at a time. You peel the first layer only to find a second layer. To peel the onion is to approach a problem slowly, peeling away one layer at a time to gain a thorough understanding of what you're dealing with. Peeling the onion is the process of asking questions until you reveal the truth at the core. You can peel your own onion, delving into your own motivations and emotions. You can peel the onion when analyzing a problem, conducting a job interview, or when getting to know someone in an intimate relationship. What's going on? Is the situation more than it appears on the surface? How can you peel the onion? So they also direct you in this way on how to think of the problem, right? So you can literally hit up this website, and they have like hundreds of these. They have so many. The person who's come up with this is really creative. They also have a section called tabs on their website. So they don't have strict categories here, but what they do is to help you navigate the website. They have these different sections called how did we get here? And another is what are the risks? What matters? What is the problem? What is the plan? How will we get there? So you pick whichever of these tags is relevant to your current situation or problem that you're facing. And then you will see like another 100 of those visual frameworks that are specific to the kind of problem you're dealing with. You can pick any of those and go ahead and sort of analyze and creatively like come up with solutions and stuff. So this is how you kind of go within. So that's another great tool. Again, link in website, link in bio, link in description. Anyway, the next tool that I have for you is just the Zettelkasten itself. So talking about that, again, I'm going to link that video. So you should watch that video because it talks about like how to use Zettelkasten in tandem with a reflection journal, which I feel is the best way, like hybrid, where you are journaling as well, and then you're shifting those core realizations to a digital note-taking tool. I use Remnote is great. You can also use Obsidian. People have so many videos on YouTube, resources. You can find a lot of them on how to build a digital or a hybrid Zettelkasten. So my thing about using the Zettelkasten tool is, again, the main thing is that when you consume so much information, what are you doing with it, right? How is it actually helping you? We take screenshots, we have saved playlists, we have organized folders full of things, but we don't come back to them. So the idea is that you keep coming back to your Zettelkasten. So my final tool is you use the Zettelkasten to come back and sit with it, and you build something out of it. So far, all of this stuff that you've been doing, right? Like based on the other tools that I gave you, if you're doing them, and you're doing it in your head, you're doing it on the journal, you're shifting your realizations to the Zettelkasten, and all of this is kind of accumulating it, and you're processing it, and it's all just kind of happening within you. So the next step is to make something concrete, right? Give your thoughts like a concrete physical form, and this could be in any medium of your choosing. So you could make a video, right? If you're someone who's into like film and photography, you can go that direction. If you're someone who's into writing, you can write like an essay or a post or a thread or a story or whatever it is. Or you could like paint something, whatever your creative medium is, make that and then publish it, right? So have a YouTube channel, or like you could get on Blue Sky, or like whatever it is, get your kind of thoughts out there. Because when people interact with your thoughts and people give you feedback, like I just don't think that art or thoughts in general should exist on their own. And like when other people add other perspectives, and let's say you put something out there, people will question you or give some sort of insight or feedback, and then that's going to change your view or add to your view. And so like this whole thing just keeps expanding, and then you'll put that back into your knowledge base, into your Zettelkasten. And so this way the growth and the learning, all of that keeps happening and expanding over time. So that is my final thing, that don't just sit with everything that you are thinking about. Give it a concrete form and have this expression and put it out there and let others interact with it. So that ends the mental list of the tools. Now we move on to the physical output, right? So this has all been output. You're journaling, you're putting it out there, you're interacting with your Zettelkasten and making something. This is all like intellectual mental output. Now, in terms of physical output, my next tool or exercise would be walk. That's it. Just walk. Go on a walk for as long as you want to. But no listening to music, right? No podcasts, like no audio. Just you and the traffic and the fresh air, and maybe seeing a couple of people. But don't go on a walk with someone, like you alone, just you and your thoughts, and see what that feels like. You will feel like you're going crazy, first of all, because nobody does that anymore. Or maybe like I'm the only one who just didn't do that. But like I used to think that you just cannot go on a walk without music, but when you do, it's so refreshing because it's just you and your thoughts. And so like the first tool is that you're just very actively observing your thoughts. So this happens when we talk about mindfulness, right? When people talk about mindfulness, meditations or practices, it's basically just observing your thoughts. So what you do is you just become aware of your thoughts, and it kind of feels like there are two yous, right? In the sense of like, one is the you, which is your brain or your mind, and you're wandering and you're having these thoughts, and the other one is just observing it. But you're not commenting on it, you're not judging your thoughts, you're not criticizing your thoughts, you're not criticizing yourself or judging yourself. You're just observing your thoughts and letting them wander. And there's something about the body being in motion while your mind is also in motion that is very intimate almost, because it's just so interesting, and we don't observe ourselves in that way. We're always like, there's this constant barrage of like input, social media and posts and this and that, or conversations with other people, distractions. But just going on a walk where it's just you and you are just observing your thoughts is really great. So that is the first thing that you do, right? Just don't stop it. Like, don't stop your mind wandering, don't judge those thoughts, just kind of let your mind jump from one thing to another. That, give it that freedom and that kind of white space to breathe and just have thoughts of its own. So that is the first thing. The second tool that I have for physical output is walking plus active questioning. So that means you're going on the walk, but instead of letting your mind wander, again, no music, no podcast, nothing, no audio, you are this time taking an active worry or problem or anxiety that you have in your life, and you are tackling it. You're actively tackling it. So you are going into it, you're walking, but you are actively thinking about this problem, and each time your mind wanders off, you let it wander, and then you come back to this problem, like whatever the problem is, whether it's related to work or relationships or personal growth. It could just be anything at all, and you will just think about why this problem is happening, what are the possible solutions. Again, you can make use of any of those frameworks or reflection models that we discussed, and you can do that actively in your head, or just like your own active interrogation, your own thinking. That's the second tip. Third tip is, this is something cool that I've started doing lately, which is walk plus active visual questioning is what I'm calling it. Visual questioning, basically you can do this anytime that you are in public, right? So anytime you're in public and you're in motion, right? So if you're like on your commute and like you're watching the road outside, people here and there, and like vehicles go here and there in traffic and everything, or again you're on a walk and you're watching people and you're watching things and stuff. So what you do here is basically you let the visual inspire you. So you pay attention to your surroundings. So usually we're just like headphones in, listening to our music, not even listening to our thoughts. But here what you do is active visual questioning is when you are looking at the visuals that are passing you by, and you could either just do that and like have a chill time, or visual questioning is when you try to relate what you are seeing to this active worry or problem that you have, right? Which we discussed in the second tool for the physical list of tools. So what that means is, okay, for example, I went on a walk the other day and I had seen, it was like outside this society there were like these broken tiles. Okay, it was just this like clump of like broken tiles, and I started thinking about like, okay, what does that mean? What does that visual mean? Just they had just been left there, they were just abandoned there, like tossed into like this rubbish pile of like, you know, broken tiles. And so I started thinking of like, what does that mean? And then that means that like those pieces, those broken pieces of tiles, they can be assembled into like one whole thing, right? The fact that they're broken means that they are just parts of a whole. And so then that led me to another thought. I had heard this author on a podcast just before I went on this walk, and this author is called Max Porter. And so he was telling Brad Listy, who's the host of the podcast that I was listening to, he was telling him about how he writes. So I'm a writer, so I'm very interested in all of this. And Max Porter was like, what I do is basically he was talking about that he doesn't write in order. Like he will write these, at least that one particular novel, Shy, that he wrote, he would write these sections of prose, and then he would see how they fit together. So it wouldn't necessarily be like one section and then the next section that he writes would go after that. It could go anywhere in the entire sequence, and he would play around with how those things fit together and what sort of emotional response a different order of those same pieces can create. And then I started thinking about that more and more, and so like the thought of like the broken tiles led me to that, led me to now I'm going to try the same thing in my own novel that I want to write. And so try that, because that can be very cool. It could be like, this was just one example, it could be anything. It could be watching like people, maybe someone's having a fight on the road and then that gives you inspiration for like some scene that you want to film, or like it could be anything. There's so much inspiration to find amidst people, especially people in public, especially when you're in motion and you're just getting like flashes and glimpses of them before they pass by. So either do that on a walk or do that on your commute or when you're traveling, whatever. That's the last tool that I have for the physical tools. Yeah, another way you could apply the visual questioning is, suppose you notice a bunch of visuals, right? So like you noticed the broken tiles and you saw someone having a fight, then you saw someone, you know, you saw this couple walking by, you know, hand in hand. And then you think about all of these things. Okay, what is the chain that I can sort of build from these different visuals? This is very good, especially for like creatives and artists, because it could give you ideas for stories. But just as a fun like exercise, creative exercise, you could do that. Or you could also ask, how does this particular visual that I saw, how does this fit into or solve a problem that I'm currently dealing with? So like it happened for me with the tiles and the novel writing technique. So that was my final thing for the output section. Then so for neutral I have 3 tools for you. This is so long, but basically so one tool I have is mindfulness. So mindfulness is basically like what I said to do with the walk thing, but instead of that you're just sitting, right? You're sitting in one place, you close your eyes and make sure there's no noise, there's no distraction. And what you could do is you could try to keep coming back to your breath, right? Or you could keep coming back to the feeling of like your hands on your knees, or your feeling of like your feet on the floor, or like, you know, different body parts. It could be sort of like an elongated body scan, like you observe how one body part feels and then the next body part and the next body part. So that's what a body scan is. And that's very good for also anxiety, emotion regulation, sort of grounding yourself, coming back to the moment, concentration, attention, all of that. But it's also nice to kind of go within yourself, in the sense that you could also do this for thoughts, right? So we are just very focused on ignoring or suppressing the thoughts that we have that give us discomfort or anxiety. So but when you actually sit down and like, let's say you're doing this mindfulness practice, And so now again, it's like you're observing the thoughts without commenting on them, without judging them. If a comment comes up or a judgment comes up, you observe that also. But basically, you are sitting and you are just kind of closed eyes, and like you're just observing these thoughts one after another. And what happens is that when we actually face them, right, like you're giving time to them, you're giving attention to observe them, what happens is that they don't bother you as much then. Versus if you're just constantly ignoring or suppressing them, they will keep popping up again and again, which is why the mindfulness practice of just observing your thoughts and letting them flow like one by one, and not actively thinking about anything, but not even blocking any thought, just observing them, that is very good. So that was mindfulness. The other thing you could do is, instead of like the free flow of thoughts, you could try to, like I said earlier, for the breath or the body part, you basically, like, let's say you're focusing on your breath and you start thinking about a fight you just had. So each time your mind gets distracted, you keep coming back to the breath, or each time your mind gets distracted, you keep coming back to the body part that you're paying attention to. Or you could just do like the free flow of thoughts, just observing those. Now the second tip for this is, what happens is that, okay, let's say like you're tired or you're sleepy or whatever it is, but even otherwise, just whenever you feel like resting, you lie down on the bed, close your eyes, and you just sort of let your mind wander. So this is again very similar to the mindfulness thing, and this especially happens when you're sleepy, like I said earlier, because you almost go into this semi dream like state when you're not asleep but you're not fully awake either. So all of these visuals start to come in your mind, and then what happens is that the voiceover of that is kind of like the thoughts that you've been having, or the like stray catches of conversations that you've been having or you've heard other people having, or like the worries and anxieties you've been having, they kind of come to the forefront of your mind. And so that is also one way of sort of connecting with yourself, because you are giving basically any time in any way through any medium. One thing that is common in this whole list is that you're just giving yourself time, you're just giving yourself your awareness, instead of constantly training it on other people and other, social media, or like other relationships, or like your work or your art or your craft, or like you're just giving it to yourself. You're just like giving that time and attention and energy, putting that awareness on yourself. So that is always great, no matter how you choose to do it. In this particular case, like I said, you're lying down, and especially if you're tired, what happens is that this kind of movie starts to play, and you're just like, again, you're just observing your thoughts, you're just observing this. And so sometimes the kind of worries or anxieties you've been having will come to the forefront when this sort of movie is playing in your head, and that is when you'll actually become aware of like, okay, this is actually something that's bothering me. So this is not something that happens all the time, but like when it does, it's cool. When you're sleepy, you're tired, and you're napping, this is something you can do then. Okay, almost at the end. So the last thing I want to talk about is intuition checking. This is basically when you are kind of tuning into your intuition, and that's it. That's all that is. So like, let's say you're doing something, right? You're working, and you're kind of pushing yourself. You haven't, like, it's past your dinner time. You're still working, and so you kind of check in with yourself. Like, you could ask yourself a couple of questions. Like, is this what I want to be doing right now, or do I have the energy for this right now, or am I ignoring my body's needs right now? Am I ignoring my mind, my like kind of emotional needs right now, or mental needs right now? And if you are, just then stop doing that thing. So intuition checking is when, again, you form this connection with yourself where it's so strong that you just know that, okay, I'm not supposed to be working on this right now because this is not what my body needs. My body needs to go to sleep right now, or my body needs to exercise right now, or my body needs to eat something healthy right now. Or it could be that I want to, just take a break right now and then come back to my work later. So whatever it is, I think instead of rigid time blocking or making these tight schedules where we don't have space to breathe, and when you're honest with yourself and you check in with yourself, like, okay, what do I really feel like doing? Even if it's something that you don't want to do necessarily, like you don't fully want to do it, but you know that it's good for your body, like going to the gym to get some exercise, you'll still be able to do it in that moment. Because the more that you start doing intuition checking and following what your body and mind wants to do and needs to do in that moment, you'll just start being more honest with yourself, like, okay, this is what I actually need right now. So even if it's a bit of effort, I will go and do this thing. I will go to the gym, even if it's like only for half an hour, then I'll come back, but I need this exercise right now. And so the more you start to do that, the more easier it'll become to do those hard things in the moment, or to leave those things in the moment which are giving you stress and pressure. And that will happen the more honest you are with yourself, and the stronger kind of bond that you develop with yourself. So intuition checking and following is my final exercise or tool for you. So again, like, the reason that I've been talking about all this is that I just think it's very important, because like for so many different reasons all of these tools will help in so many ways. But like, so one thing is that we form opinions too easily, right? We just kind of like copycat what others are saying. But like, what do you actually think? What do you believe? So the journaling tools will help with that. Or we're just kind of consuming one thing after the other, nothing is actually helping us, we're not implementing anything in our lives. And so then what do you actually think about things? Or we are just arguing with people, and like having fights with people, and we don't know why. Like, we don't even know what we're defending, we don't know what we believe in. So again, these kinds of tools just kind of help you get that better sense of who you are, what you really believe in, and they kind of stop you lying to yourself. So that's how these things help. And it's also, of course, about like self-reflection, self-knowledge, and it's about your relationship with yourself. So the conclusion is that obviously this will all eventually lead to things like better relationships, better emotion regulation, better, action. With all of these tools and exercises, this is kind of building your foundation, right? You will know yourself so well that you will then be able to build on top of that and make the commitments or have the conversations or maintain the habits and meet the goals that you want to. Think of all of these exercises and tools not as something rigid that you have to like, okay, like I'm gonna like now time block this also into my calendar. No, it's kind of just do these things often. Don't make rigid timelines around these. You can just, anytime that you feel like you want to know yourself a little better and you want to like go within yourself, you want to have a conversation with yourself, like just pick and choose from this list, based on what you and when you think it is right for you. But do it often, and don't be rigid about anything, because there are no goals to be met here. This is not something that you will have like a tangible, quick result to show for. These are more like, these are the things that if you do for the rest of your life, you will see the results everywhere in all these different areas of your life: the relationships, the self-relationship, the work, the art, the health, all of it. So it's kind of like for life. So yeah, instead of perfection or trying to like reach some goal, or like, okay, I have to invest in self-care now, this is just kind of a way of living. These are just the tools to aid you in like knowing yourself better and living in a way that's more in tune with yourself. But just think of this as, like I said before, all the actions and the habits and the goals, and like before you changing your life, you need to know why you want to make those changes. You need to know yourself so well that you know why you want to make those changes. You need to know yourself so well that once you make a commitment, you will follow through on that. You need to know why you're doing these things. You need to know what your values, what your beliefs are. And so for all of that, building that foundation is what this list is for. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, early morning, dusk, dawn, wherever you are. Like I said, I've listed everything in the description, and stick around because there's a lot more coming on all of these things, on personal development, on art, philosophy, books, reading, and there's just so much that I want to talk about, and so much that I'm going to keep yapping about every Sunday. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Bye.